The gun is now empty. I've already depressurized it. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start disassembling the rifle. To remove the stock from the gun, I'm going to start with basically a Phillips screwdriver and unscrew the Phillips screw that is in the stock that beds the action to the stock. Okay, next we want to remove the crossbolt safety. There's a little spring under here that latches into the groove of the safety. I'm just going to use my dental picks, pull the spring forward, and the crossbolt drops out. I can release that. Okay, being careful of the gauge here, I'm just going to gently, with my hands, pry the action from the stock. Okay, I think I found one, super fine flat tip. Let's go ahead and try to remove this screw from the front sight. There we go, perfect. Once that's removed, there should be another. There's an Allen right here. Aha, 2mm. There we go. That's unscrewed, and there it goes. That slides off. Okay. Next up here, we're going to remove the barrel band. Right here. Let's use that same 2mm T-handle. There we go. Okay, next up I'm going to remove the rear sight, rear fiber optic sight. There's an Allen screw here, and then there's a flat blade screw here. So I'm going to start removing those two. Alright, now I'm going to remove underneath the trigger guard here. I'm going to remove the rear screw here, locking in the end cap for the air tube. And remember, things probably under pressure, so be very careful. Hold on to things while you're unscrewing them. Okay, next up, I'm going to remove this screw from the front of the trigger guard assembly. I have a 3/8 on here, or 11mm, but you can also use a 3/8. Just unscrew it. Took very little pressure. Just remove this. And remove that. And there you go. Okay, next I'm going to remove the bolt probe. I'm going to use that same 11mm and or 3/8 wrench. And there you go. It's off. Parts bin. Okay, now that the bolt probe is out, I pull the, or the bolt handle is now out. I pull the bolt probe back as far as it'll go, and now you see another screw exposed there. It is a very small screw. As you can see, because the rest of the gun was already loose, I can just unscrew this with my hand. I don't even have to use the screwdriver. So there's that little screw right there. Put this stuff in the parts bin. And now the top of the gun just slides right off. There's the air tube in its housing, and here's the barrel and the breech in its housing. And now you just pull this apart. The barrel and the breech come apart. And there's a sleeve on the barrel sleeve. Okay, so now I have the air tube. Here's the transfer port. And right now it measures 0.135 thousandths of an inch, 135 thousandths of an inch. That's what I got. Also right here, you have the pin, the cocking pin, that goes from the under the bolt to the hammer to cock the gun. You have to pull it to the rear of the slot here and remove the pin. There it is. Now the hammer should fall out. There you go. What I'd like to do now is go ahead, final thing is just remove the valve body, the whole valve body assembly from the air tube. It's only held in with like 3 Phillips screws. Okay, next you have a sealing O-ring from the transfer port, from the air tube to transfer port to the barrel. You have a sealing O-ring, so just remove that. Keep that handy. We're going to reuse that probably. And let's take out the valve body. Alright, this pretty much completes the disassembly of the air tube and its components. The only thing I did not need to remove was the gauge housing that seals the air tube off and houses the gauge. I didn't need to remove that obviously because I'm not changing any of that. So here's the valve body. Alright, here we have the two-piece Bryan and Associates max flow valve. Diameter on this thing for the port is 0.150 1,007 inch. Okay, next up, gonna lube and assemble the valve body inside of the air tube. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Okay, up next I'm going to put the little washer that I told you guys to put in your parts bin, the little rubber seal that seals the air from blowing out of the transfer port. Put it back in. Okay, next up, now it's time to start using some of the CROSMODS part that I bought. Put the hammer in next, with the hole for the pin, the cocking pin, sticking up in the air tube right here. Slide it in. There's the hole. Line the hole. Put the pin in. And there you go. That's back in. Okay, next up, I slid the mounting block, form mounting block on here. So now next up, I'm going to install the grip. Maybe if I install the grip, it'll probably make working with this thing a little easier. Here's the grip. I'm going to go ahead and install that to the back of the trigger assembly. Alright, can't move that. Alright, moving on to the next part. Okay, so next up, I'm going to install the forearm. Loosen the fill, so that's it. Moving on to the next step. But just basically, I'm just going to polish the inside of the barrel to remove any factory machine marks or anything like that. The crown seems to be pretty decent. I've done the Q-tip test with no fibers whatsoever left on it. I've inspected it under light, borescope. It looks really good. So
okay, I don't know how good this is going to come out, but basically just finished cleaning the barrel on the Craftsman Discovery with JB board pastes, and as you can see, it's pretty clean. I scrubbed it about 100 strokes, probably more like 75 actually. So there you go, JB board paste, 75 strokes.
okay, on this part, we got the bolt probe. I'm gonna see if I have a replacement O-ring for it, being as I don't have the numbers right in front of me or the measurements for this. And again, this is just something I like to do. I like to replace all my O-rings. Yep, I had it right the first time. And I can wipe the excess off later. But there you go, new O-ring. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and assemble the bolt probe inside of the breech, CROSMODS breech, with Okay, on this next segment, we're going to install the HDD device, the hammer debounce device, which is this little plastic piece that I got from Air Guns of Arizona. So we're going to install that next, and then we'll move on. On a little side note here, CROSMODS did a really good job of machining this stuff. It's all CNC machine, so the exacting fits are really close. So here's a transfer port. It does recess in to the port in the barrel, and so when you fit all this stuff together, the shroud and the barrel and the end cap and everything, you want to make sure that once you put the transfer port in this little hole here in the bottom of the CROSMODS receiver, that it actually snaps down into the little recessed piece of the barrel. Because if not, I mean, it should be kind of flat just like this. Okay, now I went ahead and assembled the barrel and the shroud and the barrel, the shroud end cap to the receiver. I put everything on the receiver, and now as I start to button all the screws up, now that I'm actually assembling the gun, I'm going to start putting a little bit of blue Loctite on each one of the screws. Obviously this gun's a process to put together. I don't want things coming apart or loose in the fill. I hate that. So I'm going to apply just a small drop of blue Loctite to all the screws and start putting this thing together. Okay, now that we have the lower and the upper end pretty much assembled, we're going to go ahead and marry the two sections together and put the barrel band on and mount the scope. And that should be just about it.